Just maybe on? Okay, we'll call the meeting to order, and I'll ask everybody for a rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Powell?
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the June meeting of the Lackawanna County Prison Board. I trust everybody has received and reviewed the meeting minutes from our May 15 meeting that Tracy circulated last week. And assuming everybody has, I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading and approve the minutes as written.
Motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The meeting minutes from May 15 are approved. The agenda's been circulated. Does anybody from the public wish to address the board on agenda items only at this point? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the, I see nobody, so we'll move on to the motions on the agenda. First is the motion to approve all current payables for the Community Corrections Center and the prison. Once again, they were circulated in advance of the meeting, so I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
Motion.
Have another motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Excuse me.
No problem. You're just in time to give us your report, so have a seat. Take your time.
Okay,
Welcome to Controller DeVillio, and I'll ask you for your report.
thank you, Judge. Controller's report of the prison inmate and canteen accounts for May of 2024. The Controller's office reviewed the prison inmate and canteen account reconciliations, which were prepared by the prison business office for the month of April 2024, and found no discrepancies between the reconciliations and the bank statement. The balance in the inmate account was $467,228.39 as of May 31st, 2024. The balance in the canteen checking account was $421,262.69 as of May 31st, 2024. In addition, as of April 30th, 2024, the canteen account also included a balance in the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust investment account of $900,567.05, earning approximately $3,767.92 per month, which will mature in July of 2024. During the month of May of 2024, $95,240.99 was paid from the canteen account for the benefit, welfare, and education of Lackawanna County inmates. And an itemized detail of those expenses are attached to my report. And I should mention, Judge, that the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust investment accounts will be maturing July 11th, 2024, which is before our next meeting. And there's $797,000 in there. And also July 24th of 2024, and there's $102,802 in that account.
That's also the local government investment?
That's also the local government investment trust. But that concludes my report.
So on the former of those two, we'll need to take some action prior to the next meeting, right? if it
Yes.
matures on July
Yes.
11?
As a matter of fact, I have the current rates as of today, June 18th. The 180-day rate, which is what we have now, 6 months, is 5.41%, very close, annualized, very close to the current rate, which we are earning on that 797,000, which is 5.36. So it's a little bit of an increase. And if we're able to renew that for another 6 months, we'll do that if the board so chooses.
And our next meeting, Tracy, would fall after that July 11 date, right?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Any questions for the controller
Yeah.
on his report?
So, just Gary, if you can summarize what needs to be renewed, because you gave a July date and then a July 11th date. So the 6-month renewal at 5.41%, that's the 700-something
Yeah.
thousand. When is that mature?
The July 11th date is 5.36%. That's the maturity date, July 11th. It's $797,145.45. And that will mature prior to our next meeting.
Is that the only one that will mature before our next?
Prior to, yes. The current rate's a little bit higher than the current rate, 5.41. We don't know what that'll be come July 11th, but that's the one that would need action prior to our next meeting.
And then the others will expire shortly after that.
July 24th is the next maturity date. Yes.
If we vote to renew it now, will that 5.41% rate kick in, or will we be subject to whatever rate exists
I
on
believe
July
we're going to be
11th?
subject to whatever rate exists on July the 11th, Reggie, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, actually, it's a term account. You can take it out at any given time and reinvest it. There's always a couple of days in between where you wind up getting a lower interest rate, so it's probably not worth, might not be worth just taking it out and reinvesting it now, because you don't know what the rate's gonna be come July 11th. But anticipating that the rate is gonna be what it is today, then it'll be a higher rate. But we don't know that for sure. It all depends on the market and what the Feds do.
So you're saying that we can wait till the next meeting, perhaps?
No, if we wait for the next meeting, it will go into a prime account, and whatever the rate is on the prime account, that'll be the rate that we'll get on the $700 and some thousand.
Yeah, we're not talking about taking it out today. What we're
No.
talking about is voting to, reinvest it upon its expiration on July 11th. So that's,
With Pliget, you always have the option. You have the option of taking it out at any given time. So if you want to take it out today and reinvest it at today's rate, you always have that option. But you wind up losing a couple of days by the time they do all the transferring
Right.
from one account to the other and then back to the other account. So whether it's, we're only a couple of weeks away.
Do you recommend we renew it now, Reggie?
Well, I think that's up to the board, but I told you what the options are, and, if you wanna wait, the rate might go down, it might go up, who knows, but the Feds are talking about reducing the rate, according to the paper, but we don't know if that's gonna happen or not.
yeah, and I don't think the committee that's responsible for that at the Fed will have a meeting prior to our next meeting and prior to this expiration. They're talking about in September. So I think all things being equal, I think the rates will probably remain the same.
Yeah, I'm prepared to make a motion to renew the investment upon the expiration of its current term on July 11th, 2024.
I second.
At the existing interest rate
Okay.
offered at that time.
And there's a second on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. You can take
And
care of
that
that
concludes my
paperwork.
report. We'll take care of that, Judge,
The other one, we can address at the July
at the
meeting.
next meeting. Yes.
All right. Okay. Any other questions for Controller DeBilio on his report? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to approve his report. Do I have a second? Second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. Thank you, Controller.
Thank you.
Norm?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a house arrest report for the month of May. Programs totals: adult house arrest had 172 participants, juvenile had 29. Programs revenue: house arrest had $59,175.56. Juvenile had $5,410 for a total of $64,585.56. Year-to-date totals on both departments is $296,768.96. Programs expenses is $73,361.86. Programs completions was 41. Programs violations was 10. We still have 5 outstanding warrants for house arrest. Budget overall, overtime's at 18%, expenses at 43%, and revenues at 44%. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Mr. McConaughey? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve his report so he can get back out into the 90-degree
There you
weather
go.
and not continue to enjoy the 70-degree weather here in this.
motion.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Warden?
Good afternoon, Board. The average daily population for May was 806 inmates, 638 were county inmates. We averaged 707 adult males, 9 juvenile males, and 90 adult females in May. The average daily population of U.S. Marshal detainees was 168. The overtime and out-of-county boarding reports are attached. Staffing update. Currently, our correctional officer numbers break down to 173 full-time officers on shift, 4 out on workers' comp, 1 on continuous FMLA, 81 with intermittent FMLA, 1 on administrative leave, and 3 full-time officer vacancies. That's a total of 182 full-time officers. The budget as of May 31st, revenue and expenses were at 42% of the way through the year, and I mentioned that we're 42% of the way through the year, so everything's right on target. That's a good thing. Extraordinary occurrence reports. There were 3 extraordinary occurrences in May. On May 10th, a newly committed male inmate experienced a seizure, and he became highly agitated while being attended to by the medical staff. He expressed suicidal ideations, and then he began to spit at the officers. Staff placed them in the emergency restraint chair for safety. On May 17th, an inmate expressed suicidal ideations and then began acting out by soaping up his cell's floor and window. A decision was made to move him to a camera cell for observational purposes. However, he wouldn't comply with staff's efforts to implement this action, and staff had to administer OC spray and physically extract him from the cell. This individual was placed in the emergency restraint chair and transferred to a camera cell. On May 21st, 2 inmates, I mentioned up top 3 extraordinary, there's 4 extraordinary occurrences. On 5/21, 2 inmates were non-compliant with efforts to move them out of their cells so that the cells can be sanitized. Both cells were in a condition that we determined weren't fit for habitation. When the staff entered the cells, the individuals began to physically resist all efforts to remove them. In both cases, an EBID device, that stands for electronic body immobilization device, stun gun, think of it like that. It was used during the extraction, and they were placed in the emergency restraint chair so that they could safely be moved to new cells. The cells were then cleaned and sanitized. And finally, on 5/23, a fight broke out between two inmates. Efforts to safely separate the two were initially unsuccessful, and staff had to use OC spray to gain control of the situation. And both inmates didn't stop fighting and were moved to restrictive housing, and both received misconducts for their actions. PREA. There was one PREA investigation completed in May. It was an allegation of inmate sexual harassment. It was determined to be unfounded, and the results of that investigation have been forwarded to the DA's office for further action if deemed appropriate. And personnel, there are several topics to discuss in the executive session if the board decides to conduct an executive session. And this concludes my report.
What determines the use of a stun gun versus OC spray?
I think a lot of it has to do with what's going on in the moment. These individuals may have been, I'm not that familiar with the situation right now, but these individuals have been threatening violent behavior towards the staff, which would make sure you had your e-bid with you. I think, and there's a couple officers here, I think they can probably attest to what I'm going to say, in that whenever we're going to do something that could turn into a cell extraction, you always have your OC with you, but you'll go in there with an e-bid in case it's deemed necessary to use at that time.
Okay. Yeah, most of what we hear of normally is the use of the OC spray. This is the first time in a while
Right.
that we've heard reference to a stun gun. So I was just
Yeah,
curious.
and they're not used all that frequently.
Right. Okay. Anybody else have any questions for the warden? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve his report.
So.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. And I'll note for the record, I received an email from Denise Brown, which I sent to Warden Betty and Deputy Warden Orzell. It was a series of questions because she said she wasn't going to be able to be here for the meeting. So they were kind enough to provide answers to most of them. I don't think all of them, but most of them that they were able to. One of which I can speak to too. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody from the public wish to, one of those things was the investigation on our guidelines for restrictive housing. And because I said last meeting that the fellow that we had talked about wasn't able to do it any longer. So I've since had contact with an individual who's going to be, his name is Dan DeMuth. I've known Dan for probably close to 40 years. He's a former federal probation officer, county probation officer, has a long career in that field, and I approached him about undertaking this task, and he indicated that he'd be willing to do it. So he's going to set up a meeting with Warden Betty and pick up where Mr. Colleran left off. Okay. So anybody from the public wish to address the board at this time?
Hi, I'm Eileen Occupante Dunmore. My understanding is that in January we renewed the medical contract, and that goes for 1 year, is that correct? With the medical provider?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm just wondering, I knew last year there was a problem with getting adequate staffing, and they had a problem getting enough staffing that they had contracted to have. I'm wondering what the status of that. We don't seem to get a medical report every month. I'm wondering, are they up to par with their staffing? Because through people that visit, I'm hearing a lot of problems with delayed medical care, prescriptions running out, things like that. So I'm wondering how that is working out, being we're sort of committed to them for the next couple months.
Tim, Colleen, can you speak to that?
I don't have any facts. Do you have anything on?
I don't have any of reports to concur what you're stating.
Okay,
And as far as I know, staffing has been better. Of course, we still run into occasions where, we're low on nurses. So unfortunately, we still battle some of the same things, but I don't think it's been as bad.
okay. I'm just, again, I'm third party, so I can't quote names and all that. They're just saying that the medical grievances aren't even being honored, and there's not been a follow through with the medical department, that they're delaying getting injuries seen, things like that. So I knew there was a big problem with staffing. Part two of my question is, last week when I looked online, it still says in your RFP that whomever gets the contract for medical needs to be a primary prison provider. And I thought we had, that you had said that that was not necessary.
I think what we said was there's nothing to prevent a bidder from working in tandem with a non-correctional provider, such as, last time, one of the bidders was going to work with the Wright Center.
Correct.
Okay, so there's nothing to prevent any bidder from doing that.
My fear is that, say, the White Center, they look at that and they say, oh, we don't qualify because we're not a primary prison medical provider. And I'm just, the wording of that sort of threw me when I saw it. And I understand what you said, that they could work together, but I feel that it would deter people from applying and wanting to be part of the system. I mean, I don't know, and I know that is due, I think, January or June 28th. So we have to have the medical, is that correct? The application for whomever's going to be chosen there. So I'm still very concerned that we will end up being stuck with the current provider, who I think has failed us miserably. And I would like to see, hopefully more people apply. And even if they're applying to be a partnership, that does not deter them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. I see no takers. Tim, you said you had some personnel matters that you
Yes.
wanted to discuss? Okay, so we'll ask everybody to clear the room so we can have an executive session to discuss some personnel matters, and then we'll call you back in when we're done. We good? Okay, we're back on the record. We went into executive session to discuss several personnel matters, and the warden has a proposal on one of them.
I was gonna recommend termination of Lieutenant, should I say his name? Okay, Lieutenant Nick Gans.
Okay.
That was the only recommendation.
Do I have a motion to accept that recommendation?
I'll make a motion to accept the warden's recommendation.
Do I have a second? Second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, the recommendation is accepted. Bless you. Any new business from any of the members? Any old business from any of the members? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you.